Welcome back to another episode of Target Audience. I am your host, Kyle B. Miller, and today we have something a little bit different for you. Rather than a full-on marketing expert, we're talking today with a leader who is a bit more marketing adjacent. Please welcome to the show the Director of Growth Demand at Ritual, Kate Selfridge. Welcome, Kate.
It started from what I studied in school and just taking kind of baby steps, migrating out of it since then. So in school, I went to Clemson University. I studied graphic communications management, which nobody knows what that is, but it is a mixture of print production and advertising and graphic design. It's a business degree, so you get a lot of exposure to a lot of different outlets. Right out of school, I had an internship at Ogilvy and Mather in Chicago for the summer in their production department, where I got exposed to project management as a function. So I stayed on that path and started my career in advertising in that project management role, starting to liaise between account management and the more strategic functions, as well as the internal operational functions, and really straddle the business context and kind of speak all of the languages, which exposed me to a lot of different areas from there as well. At that point, I had been transferred by my company to New York City. So lots of exposure to a lot of different facets that you can jump to from there. So took a step from advertising into a marketing tech startup. And at that point, I wore like all of the hats at that organization because that's startup life. So you are an account manager and you're a project manager and you're doing some copywriting and you're also facilitating whatever internal operational needs to happen in order to accomplish these asks. And as that team scaled, they found a need for project management specifically, as a lot of organizations do once they get things up and running. So because of my previous experience, I was able to work with our COO and CFO to kind of lead that, growing that function, building what that looks like, building a team for that. Once that team was fully functioning, using that skill set of data analytics and project management to really apply to streamlining our business efficiencies and how can we service these clients in a more efficient way to up our profit margin and our revenue or take on more clients. Really, that was the first exposure I had to growth functionality in an organization, which I loved. I just love using those skill sets to solve different problems. So I was in that role for just over 2 years, and then moved my life to Chicago, where I am now. And with that move, joined my current company, Ritual, which is a mobile order and pay app. Overall, I started in a similar function there as I started to my previous startup. So I joined the team in this more scrappy role that was on the ground, working directly with restaurants, which I loved. It was a really great way to learn Chicago alongside grow in my role. But then about 9 months after that, I did start migrating into that more project management focus, data analytics. And my previous boss used to joke that he would call me his Swiss Army knife, and he would just pick me up and plug me into different areas of the business for 3 to 4 months at a time and say, okay, this is a problem that we don't have data visibility into, and we need to know where we can optimize it. And once you optimize it, can you build a playbook so it's scalable? And then now you're done. So let's move on to this other problem. And I loved that. My attention span, like that's a perfect amount of time for my attention span to really make things scalable. And then once it is, focus to solving a new problem. And so really that's been my role at Ritual, which is been adjacent, as you've said, to our marketing team. Growth and marketing work very well together, understanding where we can go, and the opportunities that exist, and then having those more marketing focused mindsets that really understand paid ads versus experiential versus what actual channels can we use to drive that strategy, and just partnering in that way quite deeply. So I've pointed that at a lot of different problems across opportunities, as we say, across a Ritual, but it's been quite non-traditional. but always in that marketing, advertising, close touch way throughout the last 10 years. I think they're actually one and the same for me. With my business, and I think a lot of businesses now, there's a lot of ambiguous problems that you need to solve that don't have a previously paved path where you're just reiterating on it. In order to really grow a business, you have to have this thinking outside the box, innovative strategy, while simultaneously being able to apply some set of ability to forecast and model and understand revenue impact on this thing that you've never done before. So it's so challenging to think all the way outside of the box and say, okay, how are we applying numbers to this? How are we giving any type of estimate, whether it's internal headcount or potential revenue growth or anything like that? But I find that so gosh, I don't even know. Like, it's very energizing to, I really enjoy the startup space specifically because it really encourages that type of mindset and the growth mindset, and also like failure is good mindset, because we're trying, and as long as we're learning from that failure, it's positive. And so it's super difficult and also so rewarding, even if you fail, because you make this bet and you learn from it, and now you have all of these inputs to apply to the next problem. So sometimes you feel like you're throwing spaghetti at the wall a little bit, but a lot of those times you're trying something new and stretching, and that's really where growth comes in, I think. I'm actually in this spot right now, so it's very good to reflect. I have a hire that just started a few weeks ago, and what I've been noticing is my productivity individually has gone down dramatically because I've pivoted to focusing my time and investing my time in her and making sure that she feels supported, especially in this hybrid remote first environment. It is a lot of work. It is a large investment, and I have felt overwhelmed during that period of time. But knowing that this upfront high investment time in this person, the ROI on this person long term is so valuable. I think a lot of times we can be short-sighted, especially in places like startups that have to move so quickly, or if you're on a team that just needs to accomplish specific tasks. The time investment in human growth and career path growth for those people is a lot. It requires a lot. So that something is usually swept under the rug, or like, let's just focus on accomplishing these tasks first, and then we'll get to this growth later. So that would be like my primary recommendation, to just make sure that that investment in people happens up front, because it is only valuable to you and your organization long term. And I think the other piece too, we actually had a really wonderful conversation across the leadership team. We actually talked a lot about vulnerability, and just vulnerability as it relates to your confidence. And being confident in what you know is equally important as being confident in when you don't know, and being able to show up to a meeting and ask for clarification. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Make sure that everyone's on the same page. If something's not clear, creating an environment that enables that type of discussion for people to feel safe, not being 100% sure. Because then what you're ultimately doing is getting everyone on the same page, which enables everyone to be more effective, more efficient, more clear when they're operating independently. So you're building confidence that then gets you greater output at the end. And I feel like sometimes in an organization, especially if you have a younger team, the fear of saying that you don't know, as it relates to like you being seen as a failure, or you being seen as not good enough, like it is, it's such a negative cultural like a societal norm, unfortunately. So trying to break through that, where it's like, tell me if you don't know, let's talk about it. And yeah, maybe if we're talking about the same thing over and over again, like there's a different conversation to be had. But if it's something that's brand new to you that you need to grow and get more comfortable with, like let's get on the same page about that, or pivot what my expectations are of you versus this other person on the team. And enabling that builds trust, builds confidence and efficiency and effectiveness for your business. So I was thinking about this question both from a leadership perspective of people management as well as just a leader within an organization, because I think this kind of applies regardless of title and team size and things like that. I think what we were just talking about, and like humility and confidence as they work together as a leader. I think when people are freshly promoted or just get a team, like they equally feel the pressure to not be seen as a failure and make sure that they seem like they know everything or have all the answers. And I think that leading by example of what we were talking about before is so critical in that, to not feel like just because you have people that are learning from you and learning alongside you, that like what they learn from you can be humility and confidence in what you don't know, and asking for help and asking for clarification, and being a leader by being human first, and not feeling the need to be this perfect, buttoned up. And also, this is my personality very much. So take that all with a grain of salt. But yeah, not feeling the need to be perfect in this role, but show up in a way that enables other people to show up holistically. There's a fear of failure in the workplace, and regardless of level, I think we all have that trap that we try and avoid, and making perfection not the goal, I think, is what we all can do across any level of the organization. My personal department has not been affected dramatically. We did see this. We got a little preview to this. Ritual expanded internationally right around the time that the GDPR was rolling out in Europe, and we work in UK, and so we had to send some notifications letting everyone know about the updated privacy policy, and we got a lot of requests, a very high response rate. Impact that we saw from that specifically was a very strong drop in communication subscriptions, so email subscriptions and push notification subscriptions. We saw, I want to say it was somewhere around like 10 to 15% of users requesting their data and understanding what we have from them. And so I think the ability to have this like type of communication that we were used to based on more sneaky type of tracking and the understanding of people from those channels, we just have to be smarter about how we reach out to people. I think it goes back to those like ambiguous problem solving questions, right? Like, this is how we knew we had to do it before. And if we're not going to be able to reach people through these outlets, what are the alternate channels that we can go through? What data do we not need to collect to prevent people from feeling the need to wipe our entire table clean of what we have of them? And just really being smarter about what is and isn't important to communicate, to bring people on. But it will be very interesting to see how it lands as it scales up here as a opposed to in the other countries that we've seen it in thus far. I am a huge proponent of networking without a goal. I'm anti-networking if you are only networking to gain something for yourself. And I think that's like the bad rap that networking gets, because it's really like approaching a conversation of like, I need to accomplish this for me. It has a selfish mindset of what can this person give me, provide for me, versus like this conversation exactly. Like I am communicating with you and connecting with you because you're a part of my community, because we were connected through a mutual colleague friend, and that type of networking I am such a proponent of, especially if you want to learn about different industries, if you want to learn approaching networking from a curiosity standpoint and like knowledge sharing standpoint versus I'm trying to achieve X and this person can help get me there. So I think that is what networking triggers for a lot of people, and like the word triggers that. But this, I would never have called it networking. But now as we're talking about it, I'm like, well, it's basically that. But it is approached, and I don't know, the intention is quite different. So yes, intention is critical with networking, in my opinion. New York City. It was wonderful. I was there from when I was 23 until I was 28. So it was like prime time, no responsibilities. You also had no money. You're like scraping by and jumping around. And you have all the energy in the world, and your hangovers are nothing, and all of that good stuff. And so I'm so glad to have lived there, and I am so glad to no longer live there. I will never live there again. It grinds on you so much. And I kudos to everyone that has stayed throughout COVID. I cannot imagine that lifestyle throughout COVID. And I know people that are like going to be lifers there, and I am supportive of their life choice. I will go back and visit and eat all of my food that I miss deeply, but I am very, very glad and will not be living in New York City again in my future. I think that I would go horse-sized duck. And the reason why, I was actually thinking about this as it relates to some opportunities that my company is trying to solve right now. When you have so many seemingly like accomplishable tasks, like duck-sized horses, pretty small. Honestly, the army though would be a lot to take on. But you are one person, and really all you can do as one person is try to accomplish one thing at a time. And sure, you can come up with a tactic that takes maybe like half these horses out, or if you're lucky, like 3/4, but you're still going to have all of these issues coming at you from a variety of places, versus in an organization, if you have one clear goal that you're trying to achieve, one clear task that you're trying to accomplish, pointing all of your resources, all of your mind share, prioritizing that to that one like North Star task, feels more achievable, even if it seems like a Goliath type of problem to solve. So yeah, I don't know, the horse-sized duck, I feel like that's where I'm gonna go. There's a lot of songs that I can vibe to, and it depends on my mood. But I typically lean towards like the 90s and 2000s eras to bring out the vibes that I need. So are you familiar with jock jams? Great. Uh, Jock Jams 4 specifically is just that album on repeat. There's a lot of bangers in there. Jump Around is in there. This is when they started introducing some of the boy bands in there. I want to say Pony is in there by Genuine, which is also very important. But Jock Jams, I played a lot of sports when I was younger. I have brothers. Jock Jams was always on at my house, and this just gives me like the energy and the vibe to accomplish and move and achieve, but in like a fun way. So Jock Jams 4, bring it back. It's so wonderful. What a great break in my day. I'm happy to have chatted about everything and glad we're spreading the good word of Jock Jams.